Well, hello everybody and welcome back. I'm not done with the bike yet. I'm sorry. I said it was going to be done a lot sooner than it is. It'll be coming out in like a month or two. You know how it is. Life picked up. Summer got here. Work picked up. We had a kid.
Why are you trying to eat the blanket?
Anyway, this video is about finishing the functionality part of the bike. So like I can ride it around and all that stuff. The next video is going to be the painting it and finishing it, like making it look cool and putting it together one last time. So enjoy the video.
Alright, so I went ahead and started by taking the carburetor out and cleaning that really good. I put in like this chemical bath thing. It's just a carb cleaner. Essentially all you do is you stick it in there for like 24 hours or so, and what it does is it cleans out all the tiny little passages and cavities so that you like for sure 100% don't have anything like gumming up the inside. I always just do that just to make sure. You just have to blow it out at the end, and it always cleans carbs really well. Also, a good thing to do while you're putting these carburetors back together for jetting and stuff, write down what jets are in there and what jets you're taking out and everything. It's a lot easier to keep track of stuff.
Alright, so now I'm doing the throttle cables. So if you know anything about this bike, you know that the carburetors are super funky. They're two entirely different carbs, same manufacturer, but just different carbs. The throttle cable on this one is on that side, the throttle cable on the top one is on this side. And I have to bring them together into a, oh look at that, into a T right here. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. But what it is the throttle cable from the top, handlebar right there, it goes into here and then it splits off into two throttle cables, and that is what goes down to the top carburetor and all the way down to the bottom one over here. I got this set to make custom sized throttle cables, so it comes with 3 cables and a bunch of ferrules and stuff like that to make your own throttle cable, and that's what I'm going to be using.
So now that I was finished with the throttle cables, I started on electric. Now, I like electrical, but I hate electrical. It's like one of those things where it's like, it's kind of fun to see it all come together, but it really sucks while you're doing it because it's like there's an endless amount of wires and you'll randomly find some wire and you're like, what the heck does this go to? And then you're like, gosh dang it, I don't know what that goes to. And then you're like super stressed out because you don't know what it goes to and it just takes forever. But it is very rewarding at the end, but man, it's just, there are a couple times where it just seems like it is never gonna end. But one thing that does help is if you print out your electrical wiring diagram and then you use highlighters to kind of mark like specific systems you're working on, like the charging system or the light system or whatever you're working on. If you just highlight that, only that one on each copy of the electrical diagram, you can kind of keep track of what's what a lot faster, just at a single glance, instead of having to like trace all the wires all over again. I needed something to hold my neutral and oil switch, and so I started by 3D printing these two parts, and they were both, well, they're both absolute trash. They didn't work, but I eventually came up with this design, and it covers the entire area between the two bar clamps, right about there you can see it, and that worked great for holding those two lights. So after the wiring was done, it was time to start on the seat pan. So I started by taping off and making sure there wasn't going to be any crap where it's not supposed to go. Crap as in like fiberglass and stuff. And this plastic wrap works really good as a release agent, by the way. It keeps stuff from sticking and it's not hard to get off. So I highly recommend that.
Alrighty, so I just got all the fiberglass on and the resin put on it. So we're just gonna wait for it to dry, and then I'm gonna have to make the whole latching system of like the whole way the seat pan goes in and then latches down. And then I'll put a couple extra layers on it afterward to go over the pieces. You'll know what I'm talking about when I do it, but yeah. So in the meantime, time to start the exhaust.
So I actually had to shrink down the ends of the exhaust to fit on the stock exhaust. You'll see here in a second, but I cut a bunch of lines in there and then I bent them down so they would fit around where the exhaust, the stock exhaust goes on. And then I just welded all of those lines shut after I bent them in, and just grinded the inside to kind of smooth it out and make sure there wasn't going to be like any crap hanging out on the inside of there. And it actually worked really good. It slid right on there without any issues.
Now, I bet a bunch of you right now are going like, what in the world is this guy doing? Why doesn't he use a pipe bender? Why doesn't he cut them up into bigger chunks and do it like a normal exhaust? Well, two reasons. One, I don't have a TIG machine. Two, if you take a look at this exhaust, the whole front part of the stock exhaust is all smooth. There are no like, you can see a slight bend curve, but for the most part, it's all completely smooth. And so the problem would be, if I tried to take an exhaust and cut it up into sections, it would look kind of choppy compared to the front part. And that is why I cut so many lines and welded all of them up and grinding them flat to be smooth.
So now that the exhaust was done, it was time to start on that seat pan again. So I needed those hooks. Well, I needed to trim it down and then put those hooks in there that would latch into the front, and then the latch in the back. I needed the striker that would come down and latch into it. So I started by trimming it down, like the outsides and everything. I try not to go too far and too fast just to make sure I didn't take too much off. But after I trimmed it down, I started bending that latch material. I just used a little bolt, and I just bent it into a U shape. And that was what I was going to use for the striker that goes into the latch. And then it's kind of hard to see, but right here you can see these little L-shaped pieces right there. And those actually slide into the little pieces of tube that are welded on the frame. And so that's how it's supposed to slide in. The front slides in and then the back latches. I just had to fiberglass over them to make sure that they didn't move anywhere and that they always stayed in the same place.
All right, I got the fabric at Hobby Lobby. I got the sewing machine from my mother-in-law, and I have the seat cushion from an ATV that I replaced the seat on about 4 years ago. Not sure why I still have that, but I do, and it's gonna be very useful. So what I gotta do is I gotta stick it on the actual seat and shape it, and then I'm going to sew the cover for it and put it on and then glue everything up and finish the seat that way.
Now, if you're an upholstery guy, this is probably gonna like absolutely horrify you, but yes, I used a machete to cut this. I didn't have anything else. Like a bread knife wasn't long enough, hacksaw wasn't gonna work, and so I don't know, I saw the machete leaning up against the wall and I was like, well, why not? So I just kind of used what I had, which was the machete and a fish filleting knife. So I did end up using power tools at the end of it to kind of sand it down better, but also I would totally recommend getting like a glue paint gun. I just spread it on there, but man, the glue starts drying and it's just like, I don't know, I feel like I would have gotten a better glue job, like a better spread, if I would have had like a glue paint gun, but you know, whatever, do what you can. So I marked out all of these lines so I'd know exactly where to stitch on this seat. And the upholstery guys make it look so easy, because I went upstairs thinking I was just gonna knock this thing out, and then I took one look at the sewing machine and I went, shoot, I realized I hadn't like sewn anything in like 10 years. And so there were a bunch of knobs and switches and dials, and I did not know what I was doing. So luckily my mother-in-law still had the manual, and so I actually read through the entire manual to make sure I knew what everything did so I could like do it well. And after a little bit of messing around with it and a lot of test sewing and a lot of failed attempts, I finally started kind of getting the seat sewn together. And at first I thought I was doing good, and I guess I did all right, but it seems like every time I did a good strip or whatever they're called, I'd find like 3 more that were bad, and I'd have to take them all out and just like redo them. And it was just, man, it was a process. It took me like the entire weekend, but I was satisfied with the finished product. And to glue the bottom of this seat, I was using that rubber cement stuff, but I noticed super glue kind of helped too, to like keep the seat in place, because super glue dries a lot faster than that stuff does. So that stuff works for like the long-term glue, but just to like get it to stay in place, super glue worked really well for me as well.
All right, so I just decided to make a little rear cowling for the seat right here on the back. I'm just gonna put a little cowling thing like right here. Try and 3D print it. So that'll be a bit of a process, but while that is 3D printing, I can start the bike up. So I'm super happy that it starts up and everything, but now comes the long process of tuning the carburetors. I started jetting and I was having a ton of issues until I figured out the fuel pump wasn't working right. So I got a new one of those, and after that, it was just fine. So as you can see, this kind of just looks not very good. This is a really good lesson. Build your parts in cardboard or something beforehand. I should take some of my own advice, because this took 24 hours to print and nothing, it just sucked. So I started on a metal one, and that one did not go much better. So I tried making it, the light cover, out of metal, and it did not work. This is what I was going for, and it sucks. It doesn't fit on there, it won't slide on there very easily. There's no way to keep the water out. I was trying to glue the little light cover inside of it, and that wasn't gonna work, so I need to try something else. And we're gonna try fiberglass now. So fiberglass worked much better. I had to like do a couple rounds of it, like put the fiberglass on, let it dry, grind it down, and then do it again to make sure I covered all the parts enough, and then I eventually got the shape I needed, and it worked great. I just put a couple nut certs in the frame and then some bolts through that to keep it on there, and I really like the way the light shines through it. And that's it, everybody. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. It means a lot, really. The next video, we are going to strip it all down, clean everything up, paint it, put it all back together, and it's gonna look extra super freaking sick. So make sure you watch that one when it comes out. And I'm not gonna make a promise on when that's coming out because I have no idea, but it is gonna come out and I am gonna finish it, so don't worry. Adios.